Hey, welcome to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Check out our playlist for more amazing novels. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new audiobook. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 31, Command the Monsters. A faint crimson glow rippled across the scene, turning the yellow-orange crab eggs into a blood-orange hue. Through the thin, translucent membrane, the cauldron of the waters, command effect remained unimpeded. The blood seeped effortlessly into the membrane, forming a character that descended like the five elements mountain trapping the Monkey King. It pierced through the nutrient solution, stirring crimson mist tendrils, and landed on the young crab inside. Unlike the perilous experiences with Can't Move and the fat catfish, the moment the link was established, it felt as gentle as a breeze. Liang Qu marveled as the last gaps in his mental link were filled. This marked the limit of the water beasts he could currently command. Unless he improved his mental capacity, no new creatures could be added. Greater than successfully commanded Stoneow crab. Evolution possible. As the crimson light dissipated, the crab eggs reverted to their orange color, and the eye stalks of the young Stoneow crab inside gave a sudden twitch. Is it waking up? Liang Qu's excitement surged as he carefully cradled the crab egg in both hands. Unlike typical crabs, this young crab skipped the planktonic larval stage and had already developed into the juvenile stage. This egg was the best of the batch, its body filling the entire egg sphere, making its imminent hatching unsurprising. The remaining eggs, into the pot they go. Once cooked, they'd transform into another source of essence of the waters. As for raising them, no way. Crabs, especially these monsters, displayed such low intelligence that without command, they likely wouldn't even recognize the concept of a master. Too troublesome, too dangerous, and with too little reward, Liang Qu had no interest in such endeavors. Inside the translucent membrane, the juvenile crab struggled to break free, its large claws flailing. But as a soft-shelled hatchling, it lacked strength, merely causing the egg membrane to distort and bulge as it pushed against it. Beside the boat, Can't Move and Huai floated silently on the water, both staring intently at the soon-to-be-born juvenile crab. The struggle intensified, with the juvenile twisting and wriggling its entire body. The membrane stretched, deformed, and finally, pop! A sound like a bubble bursting marked the breaking of the translucent egg membrane. The soft, crumpled remains of the shell fell away as sticky, transparent nutrient fluid spilled onto the wooden deck, seeping into the gaps. The newly hatched juvenile crab lay flat, using its pincers to tear into the remains of its egg membrane. Bit by bit, it devoured the membrane while its white, jade-like soft shell visibly hardened and grew glossier. Although still white due to its juvenile stage, its overall appearance was nearly identical to a miniaturized version of the crab monster. Its upper body stood upright in an inverted triangle that narrowed to its waist, where crab fuzz formed a belt-like appearance. Its lower body consisted of 6 legs, a tiny, miniaturized version of the monster. Oh, the abdominal flap was different too. As a male crab, its triangular flap gave its chest an oddly muscular appearance, making it look surprisingly dashing. Once the juvenile crab finished eating, Liang Qu gently stroked its carapace with his fingertip. The shell had gained a certain hardness, with a jade-like texture, though it wasn't overly tough, likely comparable to thin chocolate. The fist-sized juvenile crab stood proudly, its pincers akimbo, radiating a sense of accomplishment. Liang Qu chuckled, tapping its head with his finger. Since you're about the size of a fist, I'll call you Fist. He reached out mentally to the cauldron of the waters, curious about how much essence of the waters it would take to evolve the little guy. Greater than consume 800 essence of the waters to evolve Stoneow crab into Stoneow crab king. 800. Liang Qu was stunned. That was absurd. A single crab monster only yielded 100 points, meaning he'd need to kill 8 of them, more than 8, actually. Just one crab monster had pushed him and his 2 beasts to their limits, forcing a desperate fight for survival. If it weren't for its relative stupidity, they'd have been done for. Fighting another. Impossible. Let alone 8. Maybe once the Z-spirit turns green, or I break through 3 martial barriers, and the 2 beasts evolve, we can manage a single crab monster without injuries, he thought. But for now, this is my battle power. Liang Qu let fist jump into his palm, silently willing it to grow stronger. As a male crab, it would surely become a formidable fighter. In the future, he could walk across the shallows unchallenged. Even the 4 or 5 meter crocodiles would learn humility under its pincers. He sighed wistfully, glancing at his injured fingers. I really need a new way to command. This finger-slashing thing is getting old. His gaze passed through the juvenile crab to the slow-healing wounds on his fingertips. The healing effects of the treasure lotus root were still working, but his heart ached at the thought of the damaged lotus fields. Nearly a third of his fields had been devoured or destroyed during the fight with the crab monster. My lotus roots. All my lotus roots. Feeling sentimental about his first fortune, Liang Qu resolved to make the most of the leftovers. The monster's blue carapace would make a great shield, its giant pincers smaller shields, and the tips of its 6 limbs excellent fishing spears. As for the rest, it would serve as fertilizer for his lotus fields. In the boat, the crab eggs boiled in the pot. Liang Qu pulled one out to cool it before popping it into his mouth, soup and all, nearly scalding himself. Greater than essence of the waters plus 0.6. That's it, he muttered in disappointment. On a normal day, he'd have been thrilled, but his belly was already full, and such meager returns didn't inspire him. Fine, they're yours, he said, tossing the remaining eggs to Ah Fei and can't move to reduce their evolution costs. Fist, however, was spared. Having it eat its siblings was a step too far. By the time the beasts finished their meal, the sky hinted it was around 4:30 p.m. Liang Qu sighed at how much time the crab monster had consumed. He still remembered his senior brother saying that Master Yang might teach at the martial arts school in the afternoon or evening. There was no way he could miss that by the hour of shoot 7 to 9 p.m. Time to fish, he called to his 2 beasts, sending them diving back into the water. An hour later, they returned with a catch of 12 fish, worth about 30 to 40 yuan. That's enough. Any later, and I'll be late, Liang Qu said, turning to Fist. From now on, you stay with Ah Fei and can't move in the water. Fist tapped its claws together, then walked along the boat's edge and leapt onto Can't Move's head. The 3 beasts floated on the surface, watching Liang Qu row away. At Shangrao Pier, Lin Songbao greeted him warmly and counted the money. Liang Qu turned to the vast expanse of the Zhonghuai wetlands, spreading his arms wide as his damp pants flapped in the breeze, looking as dashing as ever. The sea is wide enough for fish to leap, the sky high enough for birds to soar. You seem happy, Lin Songbao remarked with a smile. I am. Care to share? If I told you, you wouldn't find it funny. Quote. Liang Qu laughed, tossing his money pouch in the air and catching it with ease. Now, back to class. Chapter 32, I will deal with all of you alone. Liang Qu headed home and found clean clothes to change into before jogging toward Pingyang town. Along the way, piles of leaves lined the road, their upper layers red and yellow, while the lower ones were dark brown. The wind lashed against his body like icy knives, but Liang Qu felt boundless energy. Neither cold nor hot, his chest burned with something called passion. He raised his head to the enormous setting sun, which gradually descended, casting a dazzling golden red glow in his pupils. As the sun slowly withdrew its light from the land, the forest, once a vivid crimson, turned a dark red. Soon, the night would fall. This was the final glimpse of the sunset. For a moment, he found this world not too bad. No pollution, no cages, and the air was fresh. A brief struggle wasn't necessarily a bad thing. As long as the direction was right, enduring hardships and challenges could lead to something better. Even effort was like seasoning, it could turn out delicious eventually. Let's go, Liang Qu shouted. A nearby mule pulling a cart was startled by his outburst, dragging the cart toward the forest. The driver cracked the whip several times to regain control, cursing under his breath, idiot. Did that word exist this early? Liang Qu froze, surprised but not angry. Instead, he responded with a smile. The driver muttered more curses as he drove off, thinking he'd met a fool. Arriving in Pingyang town, Liang Qu guessed that Li Libo and Chen Jicheng might be hungry, so he bought a few buns and took a familiar shortcut to the Yang martial arts school. The entrance to the school was brightly lit, with a large oil lamp every few meters and a lantern every 10. Liang Qu, carrying an oiled paper bag, made his way through the corridors with practiced ease. The training ground was much livelier than usual, with over 50 people present. Many students would train at home after their lessons and only return at the end of the month, so the 30 individuals he saw on enrollment day weren't the full count. However, the crowd seemed to lack any proper martial artists, only apprentices were visible. Liang Qu assumed the instructors were busy or had gone to visit Master Yang and didn't think much of it. Still, many people cast subtle or not so subtle glances in his direction. Strange, why are they all looking at me? Perplexed, Liang Qu couldn't figure it out. Though he was down on his luck and rarely approached by anyone, he couldn't imagine why they'd suddenly focus on him. Was he late? The scene reminded him of a time in high school when he overslept and got caught by the teacher doing a surprise attendance check. His classmates pretended to read while secretly watching the show, just like now. Pretending not to notice, Liang Qu headed to a corner of the flower bed to find Li Libo and Chen Jicheng. Hearing footsteps, the two looked up briefly before lowering their heads again. Their swollen, bruised faces were impossible to hide. Knowing they liked to mess with each other, Liang Qu initially thought they'd gone too far. What happened? Did you two get into a fight? And hit each other that hard? The two exchanged glances, remaining silent. Sensing something was wrong, Liang Qu crouched down and asked softly, what really happened? After a moment of silence, Chen Jicheng spoke up, his swollen face muffling his words. After you left, Lu Tingkai brought some guys over and demanded money from us. He said we smelled bad and were affecting their training. They wanted 2 silver taels each as compensation. We couldn't take it and fought back. 2 taels. Liang Qu was stunned. This wasn't extortion, it was a death sentence. And Lu, what about senior brother Shang? Didn't you ask him for help? Liang Qu's anger flared. Senior brother Shang should have stepped in. That Lu guy didn't even look at us, Li Libo said through gritted teeth. He just walked off. And senior brother Shang, no idea where he's been since noon. Only us apprentices are here today. Liang Qu was incredulous. How could things align so conveniently? I knocked one out at first, Chen Jicheng continued. With Libo, it was 2 against 3, not that bad. But then 3 more joined them, and we lost. Chen Jicheng snorted coldly. He was bitter. He'd nearly incapacitated Shui Dingyi but hadn't expected reinforcements. In the end, he'd only managed to leave some scratches on Shui Dingyi's neck. Now they're demanding we come up with 10 silver taels. If we don't, they'll spar with us every day. Chen Jicheng let out a bitter laugh. He had no regrets, only frustration that the 3 reinforcements arrived too quickly, denying him the chance to strangle Shui Dingyi. Libo and I talked it over. Since the fight was because of us, we'll cover the extra 4 taels, he said with a sigh. Li Libo nodded, both feeling guilty. They believed their actions had increased the cost for Liang Qu, whose family already struggled. Naturally, they intended to shoulder the difference. The flowerbed corner fell silent. With no voices to drown them out, the crickets in the flowerbed cautiously resumed their intermittent chirping. The sound wasn't clear, instead frail and feeble, as if the crickets were nearing the end of their days. The season was early winter, just weeks away from midwinter. The crickets wouldn't last much longer. Soon, they'd freeze to death on a bitterly cold night. Meanwhile, in the training ground, people exchanging techniques occasionally glanced toward the overlooked flowerbed corner. Some gazes were mocking, others indifferent, and some found it amusing. Zhao Shuiyuan, the 3rd young master of the Zhao household, shifted his gaze between the flowerbed and another corner where Lu Tingkai and his group stood in silence. Would they benefit from this mess? Impossible. Zhao Shuiyuan knew that those involved would face punishment, severe punishment. Lu Tingkai and his crew relied on victims too scared to speak up. Most of their scuffles took place outside the school, but today, with no martial artists present, things had escalated. Lowly people born into inferiority were inherently afraid of those above them. With Lu Tingkai's clever manipulation, they wouldn't dare report to the instructors, let alone the authorities. But today, they'd encountered tougher opponents, and it hadn't gone as smoothly. Zhao Shuiyuan couldn't help but wonder, was the last apprentice from the same hometown equally unyielding? Back in the flower bed, the silence was broken by Liang Qu's sudden rise. The lamplight stretched his shadow long against the wooden wall, flickering slightly. Li Libo and Chen Jicheng looked up to see two oiled paper bags before them. Take them. What are these? I said, take them. The crickets fell silent once more. As they held the warm paper bags, the savory aroma revealed the contents: food. Liang Qu turned and walked toward the center of the training ground. All eyes fell on him. Liang Qu scanned the crowd. He'd never stood here before, never experienced such attention. Tired. So tired. Late-night overtime couldn't compare to this exhaustion. Scoundrels could live carefree. Thugs hoarding water could thrive. Corrupt clerks kicking grain measures could flourish. But those who sought to live decently couldn't survive. The entire society was like an airtight net, ensnaring anyone who tried to climb higher. Those who dared struggled through its tiny gaps, their faces twisted, their flesh torn. The spiders, venomous insects, and centipedes perched at the net's nodes awaited the prey's exhaustion, ready to feast. Liang Qu turned toward the other corner. There they were, Lu Tingkai, Shui Dingyi, Yu Weilong, Shang Qiji. These, pests. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. His gaze grew calm as he raised a hand, pointing at the 7 of them. I want to fight all of you. The training ground fell deathly silent. A snicker broke the quiet. Liang Qu's expression didn't change as he stared unwaveringly. A cough brought silence again. Under the weight of the crowd's stares, Lu Tingkai and his group reluctantly stood. The crowd parted, creating a path. Even if they regretted their actions, ignoring such brazen provocation was too cowardly. You alone. Lu Tingkai sneered, his head wrapped in white gauze, making him look ridiculous. Yet flanked by 6 others, no one found it amusing. Do you even realize? Shut up, you idiot. Lu Tingkai froze. Everyone froze. They looked like chickens caught by the neck, veins bulging but unable to muster a retort. What a disgrace. Liang Qu felt suffocated, as if a volcano were trapped in his chest with no outlet. Taking deep breaths, he calmed his surging anger, quieting even the wind around him. Just me is enough. I'll take on all of you. Chapter 33, The Sky is High and the Earth is Thick. Pingyang Town, Langyan Tavern. The air was filled with lively chatter. Just outside stood the South Stone Bridge, under which the water flowed with a gushing sound. Every stall nearby was adorned with lanterns, their red gauze wrapping a warm and luxurious glow. A group of people gradually exited the tavern, half drunk, with arms draped around each other's shoulders, their faces brimming with joy. I really envy senior brother Hu for becoming a martial artist so quickly. I've just broken through the 3 barriers, there's still a long way to go. Langyan Tavern is amazing. Senior brother Hu, that drunken immortal brew was phenomenal. Hu Qi, surrounded by the group, had a flushed face, clearly in high spirits. Ha ha, if senior brother Shu likes it, I'll buy 2 more jars for you and a few for master. What about us? Senior brother Hu, you can't just bring some for senior brother Shu and master without getting us something too, can you? Shang Chengsong dropped his usual gentle demeanor in front of the apprentices, becoming much more lively. Ha ha ha, fine, fine, I'll get some for everyone. Happy now. Hu Qi laughed heartily. Today was the day he broke through the 4 barriers and officially became a martial artist. Without the support of his master and senior brothers, he wouldn't have achieved this success. Naturally, he hosted a feast to express his gratitude. Among the group was a short, sharp-eyed elder who stroked his white beard. No need to go overboard. I've grown old these years and don't drink much anymore. This was none other than Yang Dongshang, the true master of the Yang Martial Arts School and the mentor of everyone present. A true mentor, not just a transactional relationship like with the apprentices at the school. Master, there's no need to save money for senior brother Hu. He's a legitimate martial artist now. Tomorrow, once he registers, he'll be an official under the imperial payroll. Support for justice, senior brother's eye. With junior brother Hu's abilities, it was only a matter of time. I'm just a few years older, that's all. Hu Qi spoke modestly while teasing, but if you slaughter me now, don't blame me for returning the favor later. I'd love to see that. Ha ha ha. Yang Dongshang glanced at the rising moon, estimating the time. It was already the hour of Shu, 7 to 9 p.m. Seeing the group still engrossed in their conversation, he spoke up to interrupt. All right, all right. Today was supposed to be a teaching day at the school, but we postponed it for Hu Qi's celebration. It wouldn't be proper to keep them waiting. You all head back. Hu Qi, come with me to the school. Shu Zishu looked around and said, why don't I come along? I've got nothing urgent to do. Yes, let's go together and listen in on the class. Yang Dongshang was surprised. Why are you all so diligent today? Have you turned over a new leaf? Shang Chengsong chuckled. Master, we were so caught up celebrating in the tavern that we forgot to ask senior brother Hu about his experiences breaking through. If we wait until tomorrow, the details might not be as fresh. Shu Zishu swayed slightly as he added, I don't mind, but it's rare for everyone to be together and in such good spirits. Why not go have some fun? In that case, let's head to the school. While Master instructs the apprentices, we can spar with each other and compare notes. Yang Dongshang agreed readily. Every person's breakthrough had subtle differences, and learning from each other was beneficial for personal growth and for teaching future disciples. All right, let's go. Hopefully, nothing has gone wrong without anyone watching the school. Hu Qi assured him, Master, before I went into seclusion, I left Lu Xiaohui in charge. He's also a fighter who's broken through the 2 barriers, so there shouldn't be any problems. Lu Xiaohui. Yang Dongshang frowned. Not everyone was qualified to be his direct disciple. Talent was one factor, but character was another. Even if someone had decent abilities, he wouldn't accept them if their conduct was questionable. Yang Dongshang's impression of Lu Xiaohui wasn't great. He seemed cold and indifferent. Master, Lu Xiaohui's personality may be reserved, but he's not a bad person. He should manage fine for a day. In that case, let's go. The group crossed the South Stone Bridge and headed for the martial arts school. By night, the once bustling school area was much quieter, with few passers-by. Yang Dongshang and his direct disciples walked silently through the corridors, approaching the training ground. Shut up, you idiot. Yang Dongshang's face changed in surprise, and he swiftly raised his hand. The group halted. I alone am enough. I'll defeat all of you, all of you. The oppressive voice reached their ears, carrying a torrent of violent emotion. Even the least skilled among them had broken through the 2 barriers, their senses sharp enough to catch every word clearly. Hu Qi stiffened. Something had happened. Shang Chengsong hesitated. It sounds like Junior Brother Liang. Junior Brother Liang, someone who hadn't met him asked. He's a new apprentice who joined at the beginning of the month. A fisherman from Yixing City, a handsome, polite young man. Every time he leaves, he sweeps up with his friends, Shang Chengsong explained. Oh, 3 apprentices came from Yixing City this month, and they're close friends. After explaining, Shang Chengsong turned to apologize. I'm sorry, Master. I should have stayed at the school today. I didn't expect anything to happen, it's my fault. Hu Qi stepped in. Blame me. I was too caught up in celebrating my breakthrough and dragged everyone out. If not for that, senior brother Shang wouldn't have left his post. All right, now's not the time to discuss who's at fault, Yang Dongshang said, dismissing the matter. We'll take the back entrance and find out what's going on. The group quietly exited the corridor. Martial artists moved silently, and no one in the training ground noticed their arrival. In the training ground, all eyes were fixed on Liang Qu, as if watching an overconfident fool. He had been at the school for only a month yet challenged 7 burly men who had been there for over 4 months. How was this not arrogance? Lu Tingkai and his crew were, repeating students, having stayed behind after failing to break through the barriers in 3 months. Even with average talent, they had 4 times the training time and much stronger chi and blood than a newcomer. Ah Shui, are you crazy? In the flowerbed corner, Li Libo and Chen Jichang ignored their injuries, stumbling into the training ground to grab Liang Qu by the arm, trying to pull him back. If not for their surprise attack earlier, Lu Tingkai and Shui Dingyi wouldn't have been injured. Afterward, Li Libo and Chen Jichang had suffered terribly. Their bodies were already bruised all over, standing was a feat in itself. Enraged by the insult and scorn, Lu Tingkai shouted, "If the three of you want to fight together, it won't make a difference. I can take all of you by myself. No need. Just me." Liang Qu's gaze locked on Lu Tingkai. Supporting Li Libo and Chen Jichang by the shoulders, he slowly helped them back to the corner. The two clung tightly to his clothes. "Ah Shui, what are you doing? If it's about the money, we'll figure it out together. Don't go." "I'm not crazy, and I don't have any other plans," Liang Qu replied, gripping their hands in return. The light in his dark eyes burned with a fierce intensity. "I just want to knock their teeth out, one by one." Chapter 34, Revenge. The cool moonlight poured over the training ground, casting a silvery sheen as if the ground were coated with liquid mercury. Several figures stood atop the roof of the martial arts school. At the forefront was Yang Dongshang, his sharp gaze fixed on the furious young man below. He watched Liang Qu clench his teeth and twist his face in rage, but he made no move to stop the chaos unfolding below. Beside him, a trembling apprentice wiped sweat from his brow as he nervously explained the situation. "I'm going." Liang Qu abruptly released his grip, shaking off the two people holding him back. Amid their cries, he strode back to the center of the training ground. The moonlight bathed one side of Liang Qu's face, its sharp contours alternating between shadow and light. The bridge of his nose cast a shadow, leaving one eye concealed while the other shone calm and expressionless. 10 paces apart, the two groups faced each other. On one side, Liang Qu stood alone. On the other, 7 men loomed in a line. The moonlight and lanterns illuminated the night. Liang Qu stood tall, like an unsheathed blade, commanding the attention of everyone present. "Damn, this bastard really knows how to put on a show." Lu Tingkai's anger surged, especially when he noticed the glances from several female apprentices. Enraged, he grabbed a wooden staff from a nearby weapons rack. The school allowed sparring and had weapons racks prepared, but only wooden staffs were provided to prevent serious injuries when tempers flared. "A rookie. I'll handle him myself," Lu Tingkai sneered, spinning the staff in his hand. "Let's teach him some respect." The others nodded in agreement. 7 men attacking one would be humiliating with so many people watching. With a cold laugh, Lu Tingkai began striding forward, each step deliberate and heavy, like a moving mountain. Standing over 1.9 meters tall, he easily towered over Liang Qu, whose body hadn't fully matured. The closer he got, the more his presence loomed. Behind Liang Qu, Li Libo and Chen Jichang swallowed nervously, calling out to him, but Liang Qu stood as if deaf to their voices. When Lu Tingkai was 3 meters away, he smirked viciously, suddenly kicking off the ground and charging like an arrow. His entire body coiled with power, each muscle tensed as he transferred force from his left foot through his torso to his right hand and into the staff. He raised the wooden staff, as thick as an egg, high above his head and brought it down toward Liang Qu with a deafening whistle through the air. The angle, the speed, everything was perfect, fueled by his fury. In his mind, he could already see Liang Qu's head split open, blood pouring out. But Liang Qu remained calm, unmoving until the staff was nearly upon him. Then, he stepped forward, catching Lu Tingkai's wrist with a lightning-quick grip. A twist and a pull, effortlessly disarming him, and with a swift slap, sent Lu Tingkai sprawling to the ground. The entire training ground fell silent. Even the distant wind could be heard. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. In an instant, the fight was over. Too fast, too ruthless. No one even saw how Liang Qu moved. Behind him, Li Libo and Chen Jichang stood with their mouths agape, unable to utter a sound. The crickets resumed their chirping. Under the moonlight, Lu Tingkai lay on the ground, clutching his swollen wrist and pale face, utterly confused. What just happened? Did I just get slapped? His temple throbbed with veins bulging as he propped himself up and launched a punch at Liang Qu. With a quick swing, Liang Qu deflected the punch with the staff and delivered another sharp slap. The loud crack echoed across the training ground. Everyone saw it clearly this time, and they were all stunned. Lu Tingkai sat dumbfounded on the ground, humiliation and fury washing over him. Gasping like a wounded animal, he tried to get up again. But Liang Qu gave him no chance. With a single step forward, he swung the staff in a horizontal arc. Lu Tingkai barely saw the staff before it struck his face. Blood sprayed from his mouth as he tumbled to the ground, half his face numb. He wasn't sure if he had lost all the teeth on one side. Liang Qu lowered his gaze to the few scattered teeth on the ground. He stepped closer. "Don't come any closer," Lu Tingkai screamed in terror, clutching his face. "Help! Get him!" The remaining 6 finally snapped out of their daze and rushed forward, shouting. Liang Qu stepped closer, raising his staff to finish Lu Tingkai, but the others were already upon him. Bending low, Liang Qu twisted his body, pivoting on his left knee. The staff whistled as it arced through the air, striking Shui Dingyi square in the jaw. Shui Dingyi spat blood as his face contorted and he collapsed. The others faltered, backing away in panic. Another short, stocky man roared and swung his staff at Liang Qu's shoulder. But a sudden wave of fear stopped him mid-swing, his movements faltering. Liang Qu stepped in, slamming his staff into the man's wrist before thrusting it into his abdomen. The man staggered back, gasping for breath, and fell. The remaining 3 shouted as they attacked together, their staffs raining down on Liang Qu. He blocked 2, but a third struck him on the head. His skull reverberated like a struck bell. Blood trickled from his nose and mouth. A blow from behind landed on his back. Gritting his teeth, Liang Qu's arms bulged with veins as he kicked the man in front of him, sending him flying. He turned, sweeping his staff in a wide arc, breaking ribs with a loud crack. But the numbers were overwhelming. As soon as one fell, another rose. 4 or 5 staffs came at him simultaneously. The training ground descended into chaos. Blood-streaked staffs, feral expressions, trembling muscles, the silvery moon, flickering candlelight, cold, piercing eyes, all became part of a brutal tableau. Liang Qu swung relentlessly, his body a machine of destruction. One by one, his opponents fell. Lu Tingkai and his group rose slower and struck weaker with each passing moment, while Liang Qu's fury burned brighter. His staff moved as though it could split his enemies in 2. Someone threw away their broken staff and picked up a brick, only to be knocked down alongside it by Liang Qu. Finally, Liang Qu's staff snapped. He lunged forward, grabbing a man by the waist and slamming him to the ground. Gripping the man's hair, he smashed his head into the dirt, leaving a crater as blood spattered everywhere. Another staff struck his back, but Liang Qu turned, grabbing the attacker's weapon and swinging it in a vicious arc. Bones cracked as the attacker crumpled. Liang Qu swung again but hit nothing. No one was left standing. He looked down at the bloodied ground and the scattered teeth. Droplets of blood dripped from his staff. Kneeling on the ground, Liang Qu surveyed the groaning figures around him. He spat out a mouthful of blood, finally able to breathe freely again. Phew. He used the staff to push himself upright, trembling as his torn muscles strained to keep him standing in the center of the training ground. Li Libo and Chen Jichang gaped wordlessly. The apprentices on the sidelines were utterly silent, their faces pale. Liang Qu exhaled deeply, unable to hide his exhaustion and pain. 1 against 7, it was too much. And yet. Liang Qu tilted his head back, his gaze falling on the figures standing on the roof in the moonlight. Lu Tingkai, Shui Dingyi, Yu Weilong, Shang Qiji, U7 will not be returning to the martial arts school. As the dust settled, figures leapt from the rooftop, and a booming voice echoed through the training ground. Leading them, the elder approached Liang Qu, his tone unreadable. "Your name is Liang Qu, isn't it?" "Yes," Liang Qu replied, lowering his head with a tired smile. "Would you like to become my disciple?" Chapter 35, Personal Disciple. Disciple. Liang Qu raised his hand to wipe the blood at the corner of his mouth. It was only then he realized that his tiger's mouth had split open at some point. The skin was peeled back, flesh exposed, and blood covered his hand, likely caused when he smashed the brick earlier. The smudge of blood at the corner of his mouth hadn't been cleaned off but instead streaked across his face, forming a vivid bloodstain. Covered in blood, Liang Qu paid no mind to his appearance. His eyes, filled with disbelief, were fixed on the elder before him. From the rooftop, so many people had jumped down, including Hu Qi and Shang Chengsong, but the identity of the leading elder was unmistakable. Yang Dongshang, the true master of Yang Martial Arts School, and reputedly the most powerful martial artist in all of Pingyang town. Liang Qu didn't know what Zhao Shuiyuan, the third young master of the Zhao household, had been thinking before this chaos unfolded. If he did, he would have wholeheartedly agreed with him. In storybooks, emperors are always wise and heroic, and the suffering of the people is always blamed on corrupt ministers who obscure the truth. But storybooks remain stories, written because their ideals are unattainable. Reality, however, isn't so idealistic. Few heroes exist to expose the truth, and fewer still would go out of their way to resolve disputes with such clarity and fairness. When people suffer losses, how many dare to report to the authorities? In schools, how many victims of bullying have the courage to speak out to their teachers? Those in higher positions often lack the time or energy to distinguish who's right or wrong among the lower ranks. Their solution is simple: punish everyone involved and drive them away to avoid further trouble. Those in lower positions grow accustomed to suffering, rarely daring to hope for fairness from their superiors. Without a permanent solution to drive nuisances out of their environment, they often end up battered and bruised. Liang Qu had assumed the martial artists of the school would see him as a troublemaker and expel him. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect things to turn out like this. Yang Dongshang bent slightly, smiling warmly. What's wrong? Unwilling. Hearing this, Li Libo and Chen Jicheng behind him grew anxious. If they could communicate telepathically, they would be screaming, "Say yes! Say yes!" in Liang Qu's mind 1,000 times over. The other martial arts school students were silent. Liang Qu imagined their gazes filled with envy, jealousy, and resentment. A disciple. A true, personal disciple. This was entirely different from being an ordinary student who paid to attend the school. Shaking off his daze, Liang Qu came to his senses. Without hesitation, he dropped to his knees and kowtowed 3 times with resounding force. Disciple Liang Qu greets master. A man's knees may be worth gold, but kneeling to a master was honorable. As the saying goes, teach a craft, and the master goes hungry. To learn a skill, one must repay their teacher with loyalty and care. It's a universal truth. Yang Dongshang's actions assured Liang Qu that his choice was the right one. Good, good, good. Yang Dongshang beamed as he bent down to help Liang Qu to his feet. Stand up now. You're injured, so we can postpone the formalities. But since you've knelt, the master-disciple bond between us is established. From this day forth, you are my 9th disciple. Liang Qu raised his head and saw the 7 other disciples behind Yang Dongshang, 6 men and 1 woman. Among them were senior brother Shang and senior brother Hu. Senior brother Shang winked at him, while senior brother Hu gave him a discreet thumbs up. Congratulations, junior brother Liang. Junior brother Liang is truly a remarkable talent. Oh no, with junior brother Liang here, my title as the most handsome is doomed. Exclaimed a tall youth in mock despair. Get over yourself. Even if junior brother Liang weren't here, I'd still hold the title, retorted another with a smirk. You two should look in a mirror sometime, the sole female disciple sneered. Shang Chengsong patted his pockets regretfully. Too bad I don't have any proper gifts on me now. I'll make it up to you next time. Ah, why did you have to mention that, Shang? I hate picking gifts. The scene was lively and joyful, and Liang Qu couldn't help but smile. This is great. I made the right choice. Yang Dongshang stroked his beard, his appreciation for Liang Qu growing by the moment. He was not one to take disciples lightly, nor was this a decision born of guilt or obligation. It was purely out of admiration for talent. From the rooftop earlier, he had listened as a student, dragged in to explain, recounted the events. Though some details were missing, his experience told him everything he needed to know. Shang Chengsong had even mentioned how Liang Qu had spent all his savings to save Chen Qingzhong, simply because Chen had once shared a pancake with him. This wasn't widely known, it hadn't spread from Yixing City to Pingyang town. It had come from Li Libo and Chen Jichang, who had occasionally shared the story with Shang Chengsong during conversations. One deed heard, another witnessed. Together, they painted a picture of Liang Qu's noble character. Moreover, his ability to fight 7 opponents after only a month at the school was proof of his talent. His qi and blood flow was at least as thick as a pinky finger, giving him extraordinary physical strength. Talent, character, and already a student of my school. The only flaw was his unrefined fighting style, too reckless. Fighting 7 people head-on was costly and unnecessary. But that wasn't a major issue. Many students focused on foundational techniques without delving into combat skills. After all, most came seeking a path to survival through martial arts. It was understandable and could be addressed later. Yang Dongshang offered some advice. Your courage is commendable, but your techniques need improvement. While foundational training is essential, never neglect combat skills. A fighter lives by their martial prowess. Liang Qu immediately clasped his fists. Your disciple will remember this. He knew Yang's words were true. He had only practiced foundational techniques, relying on sheer bravery in fights. But it wasn't by choice. Combat skills required more than memorizing moves or practicing routines. Even those 7 on the ground had only learned to swing sticks. Becoming a true expert required long-term sparring to develop muscle memory. His standout performance tonight was due entirely to his physical fitness and the grit honed from battling the giant crab monster. Yang Dongshang nodded and turned to his disciples. Chengsong, Hu Qi, since you're already acquainted, help your new junior brother freshen up and change clothes. Also, prepare spare rooms in the back courtyard for the other 2, there should still be some available. Liang Qu was covered in blood, his own and others. His body ached from the many blows he'd taken, and he urgently needed to clean up. Yes. Shang Chengsong and Hu Qi saluted, then moved to support Li Libo and Chen Jichang. Liang Qu could walk on his own, but the other 2 were more severely injured, struggling to move. The group made their way to the rear courtyard through a narrow, dark passage, the high walls on either side blocking out the moonlight and lantern glow. The training ground behind them was brightly lit and filled with shadows of people moving about. As the crowd parted to let them through, the mocking, sneering gazes from earlier had transformed into looks of awe, envy, and reluctance. The crickets in the flower beds resumed their chirping. One side moved into the light, the other into the dark. Liang Qu disappeared into the shadows, but everyone knew he was walking toward a path far brighter than the one available to the rest of them. Yang Dongshang watched his new disciple leave, then turned back to the training ground with a serious expression. The matter is settled. Let's not waste any more time. Line up and show me what you've learned today. Most of the students, being veterans, knew what to do. Those who didn't quickly followed the example of others. A long line soon formed as students took turns demonstrating their techniques, hoping for feedback. Meanwhile, the battered forms of Lu Tingkai and his cronies lay sprawled on the ground, bleeding. Not a single glance was spared in their direction. Chapter 36, Free is the best. As they passed through the corridor, the lighting became brighter. Liang Qu surveyed the surroundings and found them quite decent. The environment was serene, with potted plants lining the paths. The layout resembled a traditional Siheoan courtyard. In the middle was a small field paved with green stone bricks, with rows of small houses to the east, west, south, and north. Some doors were ajar, revealing bunk beds inside, similar to dormitories. However, Shang Chengsong and Hu Qi didn't lead the 3 of them to stay in these houses. Instead, they passed through the southeast corridor and arrived at another large courtyard. This courtyard was even better than the previous one. Each of the 4 directions featured a large building. Shang Chengsong pulled out a key to open the door. Inside, there was no musty smell, and the room was spotless, with neatly folded bedding, evidently cleaned by someone regularly. The room didn't have bunk beds or communal sleeping arrangements like the others. Instead, it resembled a modern hotel room, with 4 single beds separated by simple screens. An ancient-style hotel. Not bad at all, Liang Qu thought to himself. Li Libo looked around curiously, clearly impressed. Wow. This doesn't look like the kind of accommodation 10 taels would cover. Hu Qi explained, the front courtyard is what you get for 10 taels. One courtyard can house almost 30 people. But this courtyard costs extra, 8 taels per month just for the accommodation. 8 taels. The 3 bumpkins from Yixing City were all shocked. Just the accommodation cost more than their tuition. Hu Qi turned to Shang Chengsong and said, Junior brother Shang, I'll go move some things. You can help the 3 of them settle in and get familiar with the place. Got it. Once Hu Qi left, Shang Chengsong said, this room is unoccupied. Decide amongst yourselves which bed you'd like. It's cleaned daily, so everything is tidy. I want the one against the wall. Liang Qu immediately pointed to the bed at the back. He preferred sleeping by the wall, it made him feel safer. I'll take the one next to Liang Qu, Chen Jicheng said, pointing at the bed beside Liang Qu's. Li Libo scratched his head, I snore when I sleep, so I'll take the first one, further from you guys. Shang Chengsong smiled and added, the room doesn't come with personal supplies, like toothbrushes, tooth powder, or towels, so you'll need to bring your own. As for laundry, there are servant women who'll handle it daily, just hand your clothes over to them. No need, brother Shang, Li Libo said casually. We're only staying one night. We're all rough men, skipping a wash doesn't matter. Shang Chengsong laughed, you don't plan to stay here in the future. Of course not. 8 taels a month. That's as good as asking for my life. Liang Qu and Chen Jicheng both nodded in agreement. Shang Chengsong chuckled, I can understand for you too, but why are you nodding along, junior brother Liang? He burst out laughing. You don't need to worry. For the next 2 months or so, not only you, junior brother Liang, but also junior brothers Li and Chen can stay here without paying a cent. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Free of charge. Free of charge. Li Libo and Chen Jicheng exclaimed in unison, incredulous. Of course. Didn't you hear earlier? Master Yang expelled Lu Tingkai and his gang. And what does that have to do with us? It has everything to do with you. When they were expelled, their fees weren't refunded. Master Yang, being who he is, wouldn't pocket the money unjustly. Instead, the funds are used to compensate the victims of their misconduct. For minor infractions, the money is used to buy rice or food for charity. For cases like today, it's distributed to those who were wronged. This has been a rule for a long time. Among the 7 expelled, most were in the 10-tael tier. However, Shui Dingyi belonged to the 50-tael tier. Since junior brother Liang is now a personal disciple, you don't need these funds. The remainder is split between you two. After deducting their 1 month's expenses, each of you gets about 36 taels. 36 taels. Li Libo and Chen Jicheng exchanged wide-eyed looks. That amount could significantly improve their family's standard of living. But they both recalled Shang Chengsong's earlier words about breakthroughs requiring opportunity. Without any, they likely wouldn't make significant progress in 3 months. Shang Chengsong and Liang Qu didn't interrupt their decision-making process. After some inner struggle, Li Libo and Chen Jicheng finally made up their minds to stay. 36 taels is unexpected money. We want to take a chance. If we succeed, we can earn much more in the future. If we fail, at least we'll have no regrets, it'll be like we never had the money in the first place. Good. A martial artist must have the courage to charge forward without hesitation. At the door, Hu Qi reappeared, carrying 3 stacked wooden barrels, each nearly 4 feet tall. Behind him, several others followed, carrying basins filled with steaming hot water that emitted clouds of vapor in the cold air. As Hu Qi set down the barrels, they saw that each contained a set of clothes and smaller buckets of medicinal liquid, still steaming hot. The others began mixing the medicinal liquid with the hot water in the barrels. What's this? A medicinal bath? The 3 asked, watching curiously. Hu Qi nodded, yes, but this isn't the type that enhances qi and blood. It's for treating your injuries. It helps promote blood circulation and reduce swelling. Soaking in it twice will have you healed in 2 or 3 days. These clothes may not fit perfectly, but they're clean enough to wear for now. Consider them my personal compensation. After all, if I'd been here, they wouldn't have dared act so brazenly. Hu Qi, you don't need to say that. We've always appreciated your kindness, Liang Qu said, deeply moved, echoed by the others. But Li Libo noticed something odd. Brother Shang, did you just say Shui Dingyi was in the 50-tail tier? Yes. His family is wealthy merchants, so they can afford it. Why? If Lu Tingkei's group was in the 10-tail tier, it makes sense they'd resort to extortion. But why would someone like Shui Dingyi join them? Surely his family wouldn't miss 2 tails. For a moment, no one had an answer. Maybe, some people are just born rotten. After some thought, that was the only conclusion they could reach. All right, it's getting late. The water will cool soon and might give you a chill. I'll have more hot water brought in. Soak in the medicinal bath and get some rest. No need to rinse off thoroughly, just dry yourselves afterward. Thank you, Brother Hu. Thank you, Brother Shang. Once the 2 seniors left, the room fell silent. The 3 exchanged glances and then burst into uproarious laughter, loud enough to rattle the roof tiles. They laughed until they were out of breath and their injuries began to ache. Finally, they stopped, stripped off their clothes, and leapt into the barrels. The sound of water splashing echoed in the room. The heat stung their wounds, bringing sharp pain at first, but the soothing warmth soon washed over them, banishing the discomfort. Leaning their heads against the edges of the barrels, they felt a pleasant sensation radiate from the base of their spines to their throats, resonating in contented sighs. Chapter 37, Everyone has a bright future. At the end of December, the weather was exceptionally cold. Inside the small room, 2 large wooden bathing tubs, each about 4.5 feet tall, were placed side by side, separated by a screen. Outside the window, the biting cold wind howled, while inside, warm steam swirled, thick and comforting. The air was heavy with the rich aroma of medicinal herbs, carrying a distinctive bittersweet scent that came from years of accumulated use. The reddish-brown medicinal liquid rippled around his body, causing every pore to relax and open. Liang Qu rested his arms on the edge of the tub, his previously tense muscles quickly loosening. These wooden tubs, specifically designed for bathing, were far more refined than the rice vat he had at home. They even featured a raised board in the center for sitting and had anti-slip ridges carefully crafted into the edges. The hot water quickly dispelled the chill in the room, making it feel as warm as spring in no time. The swelling, bruises, and even the wounds from the earlier fight initially stung when they came into contact with the hot water. But under the soothing effect of the medicinal liquid, the colors of the bruises faded rapidly, the heat eased the pain, and the injuries showed noticeable improvement, even the gash on his head hurt less. Martial arts and medicine were deeply intertwined. The injury-healing remedies from the martial arts school were truly ingenious. Though they were made from common herbs and nowhere near as potent as treasure lotus, their combination created remarkable effects. Leaning his neck against the edge of the tub, Liang Qu felt so comfortable that he wanted to drift off to sleep, reluctant to move. "Ah Shui, how did you pull it off?" Chen Jicheng's voice came from behind the screen. Having soaked for a while and regained some strength, he finally brought up the burning question that had been on his mind. Prompted by Chen Jicheng, Li Libo also chimed in, "Yeah, how on earth did you manage to fight off 7 of them all by yourself? That was incredible. How'd you do it?" "I'm naturally gifted. Even when facing a blade, I don't flinch. Just wait for the right moment and strike," Liang Qu replied, as calmly as if it were nothing. It felt great to brag for a moment, but he knew he'd pay for it later. Still, his face remained perfectly composed. "Ah, so that's how it is," Chen Jicheng said, enlightened. Li Libo sighed deeply. "Senior brother who kept saying you had great bone structure. He must have underestimated your natural talent." "Ah Shui, no, water bro, I won't ask you to mentor me. Just promise that when you make it big, you'll let me guard your mansion gates and cover my meals. That's all I ask. Wait, they bought it." Liang Qu's mind raced as he scrambled to fabricate a flawless excuse, only to freeze. It was as if he had prepared a heavy punch, only for his opponent to dodge and land a blow to the back of his head instead. His mind went completely blank. Li Libo and Chen Jicheng genuinely believed it. If it wasn't natural talent, what else could it be? Everyone had seen Liang Qu's exceptional bone structure firsthand. Senior brother who had years of experience feeling out people's physiques, had declared that he'd never encountered anyone like Liang Qu, with his ape arms, wasp waist, and mantis legs. That alone was evidence enough for them. Without the influence of modern novels or an information-saturated age, the two of them had no concept of things like an old master, a system, or golden cheats. In the end, the locals were honest and straightforward, an admirable quality. Relieved, Liang Qu sank back into the tub. Half an hour later, the reddish-brown medicinal liquid had thinned to a pale red. According to Huai, this meant the medicinal effects had been fully absorbed. Yet none of the three made any move to leave. Ordinary households didn't have such specialized bathing tubs. They typically used large vats, cheap and practical, but nowhere near as comfortable. Especially with the cold outside, no one wanted to leave the warmth. After asking for 2 more rounds of hot water, the three finally got out after nearly an hour. Their skin was wrinkled, but they felt no chill. After drying off, they collapsed onto the bed. The sensation was, "Look, the quilt's actually made of cotton," Li Libo exclaimed as soon as he lay down, noticing something unusual. The bedding was incredibly soft. When he touched it, he realized it was a genuine cotton quilt. In the South, where the winters weren't as harsh, most ordinary families used reed fluff, accumulated willow fluff, or even straw to stuff their quilts, covering them with hemp fabric. Cotton quilts were a luxury. At best, one might own a full set of cotton clothing. Even Liang Qu was shocked. Comparing this setup to his home was like comparing a 5-star luxury hotel to a modest inn. No wonder the 8-tael-a-month lodging was so extravagant. Luxury. The three blew out the candles and burrowed into their quilts. Strangely, despite feeling exhausted before the bath, they now felt energized after lying down. Recalling how Liang Qu had beaten Lu Tingkai and his gang into the ground earlier, Li Libo burst into laughter under the covers. His laughter was contagious. Chen Jicheng followed, and finally, Liang Qu couldn't hold back either. The room filled with their laughter. Li Libo threw off his quilt, marveling, "Everything's changed now." Really changed. "Ah Shui, you're going to be a personal disciple. I've never seen anyone as amazing as you." "Exactly. Master Yang is even more prestigious than Master Zhao. He's one of the top figures in Pingyang town. They say even the local magistrate greets him with respect, and the county governor defers to him." Lying on his back with his hands behind his head, Liang Qu gazed at the ceiling beams. "I never expected Master Yang to take me as his disciple. It feels like casting a net and finding treasure fish inside. If this had happened a few days ago, would that petty official have dared to kick your grain when you paid the autumn tax? If he tried, you could have kicked him back." "Ha ha, I wouldn't dare." "Why not? He should be the one afraid. These so-called officials think they're untouchable, but aren't they just the gentry's lackeys?" True, true. For a while, the room felt like a boys' dormitory during late-night chats. Everyone was brimming with anticipation for the future. Liang Qu had been accepted as a personal disciple, securing a bright path ahead. Li Libo and Chen Jicheng had also upgraded from the 7-tael tier to the 20-tael tier, significantly increasing their barrier-breaking success rate. Everyone had a promising future. They talked for another half-hour before sleepiness finally overtook them. "Sleepy. Same here. No more talking, good night." "Yeah, I'm out." The next morning a misty dawn arrived with the crowing of roosters. Liang Qu opened his eyes and got up, feeling refreshed and full of energy. With no electricity or phones, everyone followed the rhythm of sunrise and sunset. After bathing, they had gone to bed around 9 p.m. and chatted until 10 p.m. before falling asleep. Li Libo and Chen Jicheng, however, lacked Liang Qu's robust physique. On top of their severe injuries and the cozy warmth of the blankets, they only groaned when the rooster crowed, rolling over to continue dreaming. Not wanting to disturb them, Liang Qu dressed in the clothes Huai had provided, tidied up, and stepped outside. He spotted Shang Chengsong practicing his punches in the courtyard. "Junior brother Liang, you're up early." "Not as early as you, senior brother Shang," Liang Qu replied with a helpless smile. "I'd love to sleep in, but my body's just used to waking early." I've heard that fishermen sometimes head out to sea as early as midnight or 2 a.m. Is that true? The fish are more plentiful at night. Many families rely on those catches to make ends meet. Sigh, life is hard for the common folk, Shang Chengsong said with a sigh. He paused before continuing, but let's not dwell on that. Master instructed me last night that when you wake, I should take you to the residence to formally complete the apprenticeship ceremony and establish your master-disciple bond. Since you're up, let's go. Liang Qu's spirits lifted. Nothing would please me more. Chapter 38. The only way to relieve worries is to get rich quickly. Yang Dongshang didn't live in the martial arts school but rather resided in a more comfortable residence in town, about a mile away. On the way, Liang Qu didn't idle. He borrowed 3 taels of silver from Shang Chengsong, intending to purchase some gifts for the apprenticeship ceremony. Basic courtesies were essential, after all. However, after browsing shop after shop, he found nothing suitable. 3 taels of silver could sustain a person for a long time, but it was barely enough to afford decent apprenticeship gifts. In the end, he could only buy some pastries and dried meat strips. The meat strips were essential, as the custom of giving apprenticeship gifts was still observed in this world. Junior brother Liang, you don't need to go to such lengths. Master Yang doesn't care about these things, Shang Chengsong said. Senior brother Shang, master may not care, but as a disciple, I can't lack sincerity, Liang Qu replied earnestly. Shang Chengsong scratched his head awkwardly. Junior brother Liang, you're so thoughtful. Did I bring a gift when I joined? I can't seem to remember. What an impressive residence. From 100 meters away, they could see the Grand Yang household with its towering gates and large courtyard. The plaque above the gate displayed the characters Yang household, written with bold and elegant strokes. Behind the house was a small lake, with a pavilion in its center, surrounded by withered lotus pods and trees along the banks. The view was stunning. As they got closer, the ripples on the lake became visible. Yet, there was no wind, suggesting the lake was likely connected to an underground river, most probably part of the Zhonghuai wetlands. Liang Qu recalled Li Libo mentioning that Master Yang had once served in the military before coming to Pingyang town to teach martial arts. If that were true, then Master Yang's former rank must have been quite high. Inside the hall, Yang Dongshang sat on the leftmost seat. Though his hair was fully white and he wasn't particularly tall, his presence was commanding, with sharp, piercing eyes. To his right sat his wife, Madame Xu. Perhaps because she hadn't practiced martial arts, she looked older than Yang Dongshang. The other 7 disciples were seated on either side of the hall, with Shang Chengsong, being the youngest, standing at the far right. Technically, there should have been one more disciple, but Liang Qu hadn't seen them since the previous night. They were likely away from Pingyang town. In the center of the hall was a prayer mat. Without hesitation, Liang Qu stepped forward, knelt on both knees, and bowed. Liang Qu, you are someone who repays kindness, demonstrates courage, and is diligent and reliable. I wish to accept you as my disciple. Do you accept? Yang Dongshang's voice was deep and resonant. He had spent the previous night thoroughly investigating Liang Qu's background. Everything Shang Chengsong had said was true, leaving him no reason to change his mind. Besides, Liang Qu reminded Yang Dongshang of himself in his younger years. I accept, Master, Liang Qu responded. Joining my sect requires you to be open-minded, humble, respectful of your elders, filial to your parents, and loyal to your siblings. You must never harm your fellow disciples, act ungratefully, or use your strength to bully the weak. Can you remember this? I will remember, Master, Liang Qu replied solemnly. Then repeat it, Yang instructed. To be open-minded, humble, respectful of elders, filial to parents, loyal to siblings, never harm fellow disciples, never act ungratefully, never bully the weak, Liang Qu repeated, though sweat began to bead on his forehead. Reciting something from memory on the spot was nerve-wracking. If not for his past life's schooling, he might have struggled to remember it all. He couldn't help but wonder if any of his 8 senior brothers and sisters had stumbled at this stage. Yang Dongshang nodded in satisfaction. Good. Serve the tea. A maid, who had been waiting with a lacquer tray, stepped forward and handed Liang Qu a cup of tea for the apprenticeship ritual. Offer this cup of tea to your master. From this moment onward, you are my 9th disciple, Yang declared. Hearing this, Liang Qu respectfully took the porcelain cup, raised it with both hands, and offered it to Yang Dongshang. Yang received the tea with both hands, lifted the lid, and drank it in one gulp. Then he stood and helped Liang Qu to his feet. At that moment, their master-disciple bond was officially formed. Relief washed over Liang Qu as a wave of emotion surged within him. Everything from the previous night wasn't a dream. He was no longer a lowly, rootless fisherman from the countryside. He was now the 9th disciple of Yang Dongshang. Who would dare bully him now? After the tea ceremony, Liang Qu presented his apprenticeship gift. Master, I'm of limited means and could only afford some pastries. I hope you won't mind. Shang Chengsong quickly stepped in to explain, Master, junior brother Liang truly put his heart into this. He even borrowed silver from me to buy these gifts. I told him you wouldn't mind, but he insisted, saying, Master may not care, but as a disciple, I must show my sincerity. What a thoughtful child, Madame Shu remarked warmly. Yang Dongshang laughed heartily and patted Liang Qu on the shoulder, exclaiming, Good. 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 Several times. The gesture touched Yang deeply. It was rare for a fisherman with no formal education to show such understanding and filial respect. However, Yang Dongshang soon grew serious. I appreciate your thoughtfulness, but I don't want this to become a burden for you. Last night, I looked into your background. Don't blame me for being thorough, accepting a disciple is a serious matter. I understand, Master, Liang Qu replied immediately. Their relationship wasn't a transactional one, like the paid instructor-student arrangement of a martial arts school. It was a genuine bond of master and disciple, akin to that of a parent and child. Such caution was only natural. Good. Since you understand, let me make this clear. I know you are an orphan and have had a hard life. Nandi. Yang extended his hand, and the maid from earlier returned, carrying a pouch of silver and a red and black waist token. Yang Dongshang handed both items to Liang Qu. The waist token was heavy and wooden, with intricate carvings. It was rectangular with a rounded top, featuring a hole for a cord. The surface was smooth and comfortable to hold, and the craftsmanship exquisite. On one side was Liang Qu's name, while the reverse bore the large character Yang, along with smaller engraved words. It seems the token was already prepared, with my name added last night, Liang Qu thought. There's no way such fine work could have been finished in just one night. This token is your identification. Most officials will not trouble you upon seeing it. Additionally, it allows you to purchase medicines at half price from the Chongchun clinic in town. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. The pouch contains 10 taels of silver for you to use. It's not much, but I won't give you more. I fear giving you too much might make you complacent, Yang explained. Humans change, and so do their hearts. Many start life industrious and end it idle. Yang Dongshang didn't want Liang Qu to lose his drive. He would provide some resources, but most would have to be earned by Liang Qu himself. Thank you, Master. Liang Qu was moved. Yang Dongshang truly felt like a second father. However, he couldn't help but feel his master overestimated his financial situation. Only 10 taels. To him, that was an astronomical sum. Before joining the martial arts school, his highest savings had been 9 taels and 3 qian. Now he had barely a few copper coins to his name. Clearly, people lived in entirely different worlds. Since Master has given his gift, we as senior brothers must not be stingy. We've prepared something for you, junior brother. A tall, rugged man with a farmer-like appearance stepped forward. From Shang Chengsong's introductions, Liang Qu recognized him as Yu Dun, the second disciple. Of course, we all have gifts for you. Count me in, and me. One after another, Liang Qu's senior brothers stepped forward, each holding a prepared gift. Chapter 39, Master Liang. Young Master. Seeing the first to step forward was second brother, Liang Qu surmised that the absent senior over the past 2 days must be eldest brother. Yu Dun, who looked like an old farmer, presented a black fur cloak with a slight sheen to its soft, velvety surface. Ninth junior brother, this is a fur cloak made from bear dog hide. It's impervious to blades, resistant to water, and excellent for keeping warm. With winter approaching, I hope you'll like it. Thank you, second brother. Liang Qu bowed deeply and accepted the cloak with delight. The cloak was surprisingly soft and comfortable to the touch. It was hard to imagine such a supple material could withstand cold weapons. With the weather growing colder, the 2 hemp outfits he had bought earlier were far from adequate. This gift came just in time. Next, third brother Lu Gang stepped forward. Lu Gang was the most burly among the brothers, with powerful, thick upper arms. Despite the winter chill, he wore only a short-sleeved shirt and held a chunk of black metal, about the length of an arm and as thick as a wrist. What is this, third brother? Liang Qu asked, confused. Was he gifting him a chunk of steel? Yang Dongshang chuckled and explained, Lu Gang comes from a family of blacksmiths. His grandfather was an armorer in the army during the founding emperor's campaigns, crafting exceptional weapons. This piece of tungsten steel is perfect for forging arms. He's offering to forge you a weapon from it and wants to know what type you prefer. Lu Gang nodded. Blade, spear, sword, halberd, I can forge them all. What would you like, ninth brother? A weapon. Liang Qu's thoughts started racing. He had long wanted a proper weapon, but iron tools were expensive. Until now, he'd been gutting fish with a sharpened stone blade. Given that his strength lay underwater, weapons suited for slashing, chopping, or sweeping wouldn't be ideal. Piercing weapons would be much better. Fishermen commonly used harpoons, often tridents to increase the chance of a hit. But for dealing with creatures like the giant crab monster, he needed a weapon that could pierce deeply in a single strike. A spear would be the best choice. After some thought, Liang Qu replied respectfully, I would like a spear, third brother. Could you craft a large spear for me? A large spear. Yang Dongshang raised an eyebrow. The spear is easy to learn but hard to master. That said, I can teach you. I'm determined, master, Liang Qu answered resolutely. Seeing his determination, Yang didn't press further. Mastery of any weapon was challenging, but spears were indeed beginner-friendly. Very well. Later, I'll draw up a few spear designs for you. Once you've chosen one, I'll start forging it. I've already got the shaft material, so it won't need drying. If we use shark lacquer, it should be ready in about 2 months. 2 months. Liang Qu was surprised. Wouldn't that trouble you too much, brother? Not at all. The actual forging only takes 10 days or so. The lacquer curing is what takes time. Shark lacquer is already fast, standard resin would take 3 months. Then I'll trouble you, third brother. I won't let you down. Fourth brother Shuzishu, the tall, spirited youth who joked the previous night about losing his title as the most handsome, was next. His confident demeanor and fair, handsome features made him stand out. He presented a pair of tungsten steel armguards that covered the entire forearm. They were hard yet lightweight, with adjustable leather straps for a snug fit. Fifth sister Zhou Shaoqin, tall and valiant, gave him a pair of Cloud Walker boots, crafted from ghost tiger hide. They were light, breathable, and ideal for agility. Sixth brother Cao Rang, whose upright and righteous appearance radiated integrity, presented a jade pendant. It had properties to calm the mind, relieve fatigue, and was said to make 4 hours of sleep feel like 5.5 when used as a pillow at night. Seventh brother Hu Qi, tall and broad-shouldered, offered a wide leather belt. Made from mountain ox hide, it was reinforced with dark red patterns, resistant to fire and blades, and highly durable. Finally, eighth brother Shang Chengsong presented a finely tailored narrow-sleeve robe, embroidered with gold thread and interwoven with celestial silk. The fabric was soft, resilient, and exquisitely designed. Liang Qu thanked each of them one by one, his heart brimming with emotion. Since arriving in this world, it was the first time he had experienced this sense of support and security. Having so many brothers was truly a blessing. He now had 7 exceptional items, all of them top-notch. A belt, armguards, robe, cloak, weapon, accessory, and boots, a complete set. Liang Qu couldn't help but feel like Sun Wukong visiting the Dragon King's palace, walking away with a golden crown, armor, and boots. Fourth brother Shu Zishu confirmed his thoughts with a playful remark, "I'm the worst at gift giving, it's such a headache. After discussing with the others, we decided to kit you out with a full set. Each of us contributed one item. So, ninth brother, what do you think? Want to try it on? With your good looks, you'll pull it off better than I do." "Exactly. You'll look amazing," added Shang Chengsong, who was eager to see how his robe fit. "I made sure to leave some extra room since you're still growing. It shouldn't be an issue." Even Madame Shu chimed in, "Go ahead and try it on." Everyone wanted to see how Liang Qu looked in their gifts. Liang Qu hesitated, glancing at Yang Dongshang for guidance. Yang stroked his beard and laughed. "Since your brothers and sister want to see, Nandi, take my ninth disciple to the guest room to change." "Yes, sir," Nandi replied, extending her slender, fair hand toward the corridor. "Ninth young master, this way." Ninth young master. The title made Liang Qu's head spin as he followed Nandi to the guest room in a daze. Nandi had a large bronze mirror brought in. It was polished so smooth it rivaled modern silver and aluminum mirrors. Looking at his reflection, Liang Qu's thoughts raced. When he first arrived, his cheeks were hollow, his skin sallow, and his life hung by a thread like a candle in the wind. But now, 2 months, just 60 days. He was brimming with vitality, radiating energy. And someone had even called him Ninth Young Master. Ninth Young Master. Was this really him? Ha ha ha. He burst out laughing but quickly stopped when he noticed Nandi nearby, coughing awkwardly to suppress his laughter. Yet he couldn't stop the grin from spreading across his face. Ha ha ha. This is it, now she'll think I'm a fool. Taking deep breaths to calm himself, Liang Qu forced his expression back to seriousness. "Apologies for the laughter," he said. Nandi gave a small bow, her dimples showing. "There's nothing to apologize for, Ninth Young Master. Being accepted by Master Yang is a great honor. There are countless people from towns, villages, and cities who'd give anything for this opportunity. It shows you're truly exceptional, 1 in 1,000, far above the common folk. Wow, she's pretty, polite, and eloquent. No wonder she's from a distinguished household." Coughing into his hand to mask his embarrassment, Liang Qu said, "Could you step outside for a moment? I'll call you back once I've changed." "As you wish." Once the room was empty, Liang Qu began changing. The clean clothes he wore now were thanks to Huchi from the night before. If he'd come here in his old brown hemp garments, it would have been downright embarrassing. He didn't even own a proper inner shirt. For the first time, Liang Qu put on a formal robe, fumbling a bit before figuring out how to wear it properly. For someone from a poor household, clothes were simple, loose, open garments thrown on without much thought. Now he donned the golden-trimmed robe, white cloud walker boots, the wide mountain ox belt, the jade pendant, the ebony waist token, tungsten armguards, and the black bear dog fur cloak. Piece by piece, Liang Qu assembled his ensemble. In the mirror stood a completely transformed Liang Qu, a man of distinction, brimming with confidence. Chapter 40, 4 Gates and 7 Paths. When Liang Qu re-entered the main hall after dressing up, he drew everyone's attention immediately. His long arms, slender waist, and mantis-like legs, characteristics of an ape's build, were complemented by his broad shoulders. The mountain ox hide belt snugly secured his outfit, emphasizing his upright stature and making him look as imposing as a long spear. Yang Dongshang praised him, "Good. This is the vigor of youth. I'm doomed. My title as the most handsome is truly going to be taken now. Senior brother Shu, give it a rest." "It was always me," sneered Cao Rang. "Such a shame the senior brother isn't here. He's the wealthiest among us, and whatever gift he'd bring would surely be something extraordinary, like spiritual pills or miraculous medicine. By the way, Master, did you notify senior brother?" Yang Dongshang nodded. "I wrote him a letter last night. It hasn't been sent yet, but I'll have someone deliver it soon. We should get a reply in about a month, and he'll definitely make up for his absence then." Seeing Liang Qu's curiosity, Shu Zishu explained, "Senior brother has joined the Western Army." He's now a commander of 1,000 and is about to be promoted again. He can't easily come back, which is why you haven't seen him." Liang Qu nodded in understanding. The group continued to chat casually, mostly asking about Liang Qu's life. After about half an hour, the third senior brother, Lu Gang, excused himself. He wasn't much for words and preferred smithing. He was eager to return and design the long spear. "Junior brother, come by my house this evening. From Yang Manor's entrance, just follow the main road until you see a grain store called Shu's Grain Shop. Next to it, there's an alley. Go straight down the alley until you see a large iron anvil, that's my house." "Got it, third senior brother. Take care." After Lu Gang left, the others chatted a while longer before gradually dispersing, leaving only the 3 youngest disciples behind. Yang Dongshang sipped his tea and asked, "Xiao Ju, how thick is your chest qi now?" Liang Qu decided not to lie about his progress in cultivation, deceit would only harm his growth. "About the thickness of an index finger." His words startled Hu Qi and Shang Chengsong. "Junior brother, you've only been practicing for a month, right? How is your progress so fast? I haven't seen you take any medicinal tonics." "I caught another treasure fish a few days ago." Liang Qu scratched his head. "It was a crimson eel with a cow-like tail. I was so excited that I stewed and ate it immediately. Afterward, my body became extremely hot, so I kept practicing punches. By the time I finished, my chest qi grew from chopstick thick to the width of an index finger." A crimson eel with a cow's tail. Hu Qi and Shang Chengsong fell into deep thought. They couldn't recall encountering such a treasure fish. "Master, do you know what kind of fish this might be?" "I don't know either," Yang Dongshang concluded. "But the Zhonghuai wetlands are vast, filled with countless species. It's not unusual for us to encounter fish we've never seen before." "That's good," Liang Qu thought. It wasn't real to begin with. He had originally planned to attribute his progress to catching another horned pomfret, but that seemed implausible as the effects wouldn't have been this significant. So, he made up a new story instead. Modern rivers are teeming with undiscovered species, not to mention ancient times with a much more pristine environment. It wouldn't be surprising to stumble upon a species with extraordinary effects. Still, Hu Qi remarked, "It's impressive that junior brother achieved chopstick thick qi within a month without taking medicine. Master, perhaps you could measure his fate pattern someday to determine his true talent. Bone structure only reveals so much." Fate pattern. Liang Qu silently repeated the new term, unsure of its meaning. Sensing his confusion, Hu Qi explained, "This fate pattern isn't about destiny but talent. It's a way to gauge potential. You'll understand once it's measured." Yang Dongshang shook his head. "I've run out of incense ash, and the tools are incomplete. We'll need to wait a while before we can measure it." Liang Qu asked, "Master, I heard senior brother who mentioned that chest qi the size of a pinky finger is enough to break through the skin barrier. I didn't know how to break through before and pushed mine to the thickness of an index finger. Will this cause any issues?" "There's no problem," Yang Dongshang reassured. "Breaking through with pinky thick qi is just the minimum requirement. With your index finger thick qi, the process will only be easier." Liang Qu was relieved. He had been worried about making a mistake since he lacked experience. The fantasy novels he had read before weren't reliable references, fiction and reality were worlds apart. "Your injuries aren't fully healed yet," Yang Dongshang continued. "You can wait until you recover before resuming cultivation. For now, follow Hu Qi's guidance at the martial arts school. He'll teach you the basics and familiarize you with common knowledge. Chengsong can also take you to the Changchun clinic to introduce you there. It'll make getting prescriptions easier in the future." Yang Dongshang's arrangements were clear and efficient. Though Liang Qu was his disciple, his current level didn't require direct teaching, and Hu Qi was more than capable of guiding him. "By the way, do you know how to read?" "A little, but not much." "Then you should also spend some time at the local private school. I'll arrange a teacher for you." "Thank you, Master." Once Yang Dongshang finished his instructions, it was already mid-morning. Liang Qu left with his 2 senior brothers to visit Changchun Clinic. The clinic was the largest in Pingyang town, with 4 or 5 physicians attending to patients in the main hall, which had a long line at the entrance. Huqi and Shang Chengsong led Liang Qu straight inside without queuing. Upon entering, Shang Chengsong called out to the counter, "Manager Chen, this is my master's new disciple, our 9th junior brother. Bring him over to get acquainted." The gray-haired manager quickly stepped away from the counter to greet them. He looked at Liang Qu and complimented, "So this is 9th young master. Truly a remarkable presence, unforgettable at first sight. You all, come over and greet him. Be sharp about it." The busy clerks immediately stopped their tasks to bow and greet Liang Qu, calling him 9th master, instead of 9th young master. "Did you all remember that clearly?" "Yes, manager." "Good, back to work," Manager Chen said before turning to Liang Qu. "As per usual, all your visits will be at half price." "Thank you, Manager Chen. You're too kind. Your visit is an honor to our humble establishment." After a brief chat, the group left the clinic. On their way out, Huqi grabbed 3 packs of medicine. The manager refused payment, offering them as a congratulatory gift for young master's new disciple. Liang Qu accepted the compliments with gratitude, reflecting on the IOU he had left behind the last time he visited the clinic with Chen Qingzhong. Truly, he had ascended in status overnight. On their way back to the martial arts school, Huqi began explaining the process of breaking through the skin barrier. The method is simple. Use your chest qi, the concentrated stream of blood and vitality in your chest, and circulate it throughout your body. Stimulate the skin by repeatedly directing this flow. Once the skin reaches a threshold, it undergoes a qualitative transformation, becoming tough and resilient, similar to ox hide. This process does have risks, though, Huqi added. It's best to have guidance while attempting it. When we get to the martial arts school, I'll demonstrate for you. Once you've mastered the 4 barriers of skin, flesh, bone, and blood, you'll enter the 7 paths: galloping horse, wolf smoke, tiger hunt, perfection of the elephant, ascending dragon, furnace refinement, and transformation into a rainbow. Each path has its own stages. Huqi counted them off with his fingers as he elaborated. Galloping horse. At its peak, you can resist the force of dozens of galloping horses without moving an inch. Wolf smoke. Blood energy rises like smoke, towering several feet high. Your presence becomes overwhelming, like encountering a feral pack of wolves. Tiger hunt. Your energy surges like a tide. A glance from you strikes terror into others, as if they were helpless prey before a predator. Perfection of the elephant. Movements shake the ground, mountains crumble at your touch, and rivers bow to your presence. A warrior of this stage could easily become a general. Ascending dragon. Your body transcends the limitations of Earth. Leaping thousands of feet into the air, soaring through clouds, you are a national treasure, a martial saint. Furnace refinement and transformation into a rainbow. I don't know much about these. I've only heard that at the rainbow stage, your physical body can transform into pure energy and ascend. Huqi paused and gave Liang Qu a meaningful look. By the way, once you pass the 4 barriers, you'll face the 5 organs barrier. It's often grouped with the galloping horse path because breaking through it allows you to reach the horse's strength immediately. Liang Qu's mind was spinning from the sheer scale of this information. The martial arts of this world were far more incredible than he had imagined. "What level is Master at?" he asked. "Tiger hunt," Huqi replied with a grin. "Tiger hunt." Liang Qu's eyes widened. A small town like Pingyang had someone at such a formidable level. Could martial arts be common? Huqi chuckled, seeing through his thoughts. "Junior brother, do you know there are 3 martial arts schools in Pingyang town?" "Yes," Liang Qu replied. "Well, the other 2 are here because they can only compete at Pingyang's level. Young master stays because this is his hometown." Liang Qu nodded in realization. The difference wasn't in numbers but in quality. The depth of martial arts cultivation in this world surpassed his wildest expectations. As for Master Zhao, the so-called sword of Damocles that once loomed over Liang Qu, he was nothing but an old fool now. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audio Wave to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.